p.m. on Monday. This is Jason Schwartz. You're at the Neutral Zone. Welcome to our show.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. So many men sold away. And I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and faith. Made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. Pleased to meet you, hope you get my name. But what puzzling you is the nature of my game.
Wow. When I hear that, that brought back memories of Maui. We don't call it Maui Community College. It's now University of Hawaii Maui College. We are here on radio, KAKU 88.5 FM. We're also on Facebook Live, and you'll find us on MauiNeutralZone.com, this show and others. We have a special guest today. You hear me say that almost every time, but you know what? We have special guests. And this one is no special than anyone. In fact, many of you see a face and you see that hat and you think, is that Vince Esquire? No, that's not him. That's Brian Kohne. Brian Kohne, some of you know, many of you know, writer, director, producer, educator. Your most recent project, which I guess is now renamed Maui, was Kuleana, which we all celebrated, a great local production. Welcome to our show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, you know, you by yourself have become, I think, a local phenomenon. There have been others that have done local projects, obviously, over time. Mm-hmm. But your success is well noted. I had so much fun way back when you did Get a Job, which isn't so way back, I guess. When was that?
Get a Job we shot in 2010 and did film festivals in 2011 and released in 2012.
Wow, and we're in 2019, so you're a veteran of the circuit.
Survivor is...
Did you have experience before this project?
Before Get a Job and ultimately Kuleana. Yeah, I started making movies at Baldwin High School in 1980.
Wow.
When I was 16. I was certainly the only one that I was aware of at the time making movies, trying to, work with narrative works. Video was coming around at that time, but certainly not in a practical way.
Right.
So what I was trying to figure out, we were really heavily involved in the youth theater. My brothers and others in the community, people, Eric Gilliam and others that are certainly well known. We all started in the theater.
Is that
on
Sue
Maui.
Loudon, that kind of
Sue Loudon and Linda Takita, Michael Takita, Maui Community Theater as well in the 70s. So, but for me, I was not a theater guy so much. I always knew I wanted to make movies. So I hung around the theater primarily to help my brother and others that were working on production, do tech stuff, and just be supportive. But I by doing so, I had the catbird seat to sit back and watch these powerful individuals, Sue Loudon and Linda Takita, and I wanted to do what they were doing, which was directing. That was my interest. So it was, as a young guy, I got to kind of watch these powerful folks that really had a vision and worked hard and were driven and instilled a really heavy work ethic in all of us. Production is no small matter. The show must go on, and in film, television, and other, it's really no different. And it's a collaborative space. So I started out then, and then ultimately moved on to the mainland where I went to college and produced television and did sports journalism, a lot of corporate video. I just did a whole lot of stuff. And then got off the path of entertainment and certainly motion pictures. And I was heavy into, I have degrees in graphic design and interactive media in addition to radio, television, and film. And so I spent a lot of years doing sales and marketing and user interface design. I was in the Silicon Valley working in a lot of different capacities, working for myself as well as others. I worked for a company out of the Midwest that did a lot of sports. I covered a lot of heavyweight championship fights and college bowl games and hockey and you name it. I'm a sports fanatic, so anytime it was about a sport, it's like great. And I'll have a press pass, fabulous. I'll do it. What do I got to do? Oh, okay, cool.
So you were a production guy and directing and whatever role.
Well, directing was always my thing, always my vision,
okay.
And I was a director for in my early 20s in television and other stuff. That's always just been where I've been at, but. As anybody who directs can tell you, you need to have a real wide skill set. It's not restricted just to being a good storyteller or anything. You need to be a psychologist. You definitely need to have people skills. In my case, as an independent, you have to develop acumen on the business side of matters. So I would say it's a lot like golf. Being a director is a lot like golf. You're never going to master it, and you just got to keep at it and keep going and keep doing it. And so I have.
And watch out for the wind and the hook and all the rest of it.
Yeah, well, life throws you curveballs. And I think a lot of people who work professionally in these industries, they get themselves on a certain path because it's what they want to do. I've always wanted to do this, and so people, find their way. I've known many people who say, I just want to direct television, and they work real hard, and they strive, and they get to Hollywood, and they build their way up however they have to get there. And then when they get into that seat, then a lot of the television directors realize, holy crap, this is what I wanted. This is what I thought. Television's not a medium for the director. It's a writer's medium. So people who want to direct really belong in film. It's where the director has say. It's where the director is, the ultimate authority. Television, it's the writers.
Well, yeah. Going back to get a job, you wrote and directed, right?
Correct.
So the writing piece, to me, like what you're talking, I thought that was a great piece. It could have been on TV, but it was great as a movie.
Yeah.
And you really showed both sides of your background there really well.
Thanks, and that was a growth step for me in so many ways. It was my first feature as a director, but also as a writer. And when I was younger, I didn't take responsibility for the writing side of things. I worked with others. I had partners that were screenwriters. And I always thought, oh no, I'm a director, and by extension, we all had to produce in order to do things. But I always left the writing to other people, and I think that was okay at the time, because it wasn't where my passion was. And what I will say is, I don't think, and I think there's rare exceptions, I don't think we have a lot to say as writers until we've lived for a while, until we get into our, get a little further up the road. And everything that we were creating, it was all stoner comedy, and it's funny, but not all stoner comedy. But it was a lot of stuff. I was a comedian, and it doesn't have a lot of depth or value. And I look back at it, and it was great growth, and it was in the moment, and might have been more interesting in its time, and certainly more cutting edge. I look back on the things we produced earlier, and all those ideas have been trampled over since then in television and film. But I didn't come around until my late 30s. I didn't come around to the fact that, oh man, if you want to direct, you better be a good writer too. You better understand story. At the end of the day, you have to understand story, how to tell story concretely, and so I took that on. And so Get a Job was fortunately my first opportunity to direct a full-blown feature film, but it was also my first screenplay that I had taken to a point of being shootable.
Got it.
And so that journey continues.
Well, and then you took it to the next step, which is you wrote Kuleana as well.
Kuleana was a growth step in 1,000 different ways, not the least of which was the first time in my life I'd ever worked in drama.
I see.
So as a writer, it was a super challenge. I have good comedic instincts, and so I'm not so challenged. Once I understood screenplay form and started to understand story on a deeper level, I can I can just blast comedy out. I'm really good in a writer's room. I'm real loose, and comedy is pretty easy. It's a science. At the end of the day, once you've been doing it long enough, comedy is just it's just not as you're not just sitting there trying to think of goofy things to say. There's a progression, and there's a setup, and there's a payoff. There's a way that you deal with comedy to elicit laughter or humor, and there's a way you set up stories so that people already want to laugh. Stand-up comics know this very well. They have to they have to get in, they have to set the tension in the room in order to break it, which is what causes laughter. So that was my lifelong understanding, was comedy. So Kuleana, as a writer, that became a real amazing beast. Not only was I still learning the craft of screenwriting, so I was, there was a lot that I didn't know and I hadn't experienced and hadn't figured out yet. But then I was taking on this form of drama, which was the antithesis of every instinct that I have. In a drama, you create the tension and you sustain it, and you end up having to I'm making this very simple, and it's probably not, but I think with drama you find ways to create the tension and sustain it in a way so that it's not unbearable. But you have to develop the trust that an audience wants to be in that emotional place, And whereas comedy, you set that tension up, and then you take it, make it as taut as you can, and then you relieve it with something ridiculous, ha 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 ha, and then everybody's emotions dissipate, and then you're back to, you're back, and the story continues. So my habit is always to create the tension and then relieve it with a gag or a joke or something, and that I discovered was, certainly not the techniques you use in drama, and then on top of it, Kuleana was a thriller, and so I needed to get in deeper and understand the form of suspense. How do you create it? How do you sustain it? And it was really difficult.
Well, it's all these things you're talking about, I think, are a natural lead up to. Now, by the way, we're talking with Brian Kohne. Brian is what do you call your program director? What is your role?
At the University of Hawaii Maui College, I'm the program coordinator of creative media.
Program coordinator. Mm-hmm. Brian is over. I'm at UHMC, and I have the good fortune this semester, here it's spring 2019, when you talk about story, Adi Alad is an editor who I came to understand worked on that movie Kuleana. When I'm enjoying it, you'll find out. I have trouble seeing, so me as an editor, why am I in the class? To learn what he's teaching, which is what you're talking about story and holding suspense and doing it in frames. That was probably a great experience, editing a drama and building tension.
Well, and Kuleana then in Adi Alad is absolutely brilliant, and he is teaching editing at the college with us now.
Great opportunity for everyone to learn.
It's fantastic, and he's got a depth of experience and a lifelong passion for storytelling. And so Kuleana, he edited Kuleana with me, and then that was another growth step for me. It was the first time that I'd worked intimately with an editor. In the case of Get a Job, I edited that film myself, which I'd never done that. And so Get a Job was a growth step for me, learning story as an editor. And editing comedy wasn't such a big challenge for me because I understood those principles. But I can tell you it's not easy, and anybody who's an editor can probably tell you that, oh, wow, once you start dealing with comedy, yeah, you can cut it, and it can sound good, and it can be smooth and slick. That's not comedy. Smooth and slick and everything we do with drama or advertisements and all this doesn't result in laughter necessarily. So the comedic editor is a very specific beast, and so while I was struggling to learn how to step up to the plate of editing a full feature film, at least I could lean on my comedic instincts. When I got to Kuleana, I was blessed that Adi had come into my life, and so he edited it. So that was a whole nother learning thing for me, was sitting as a director in a more traditional relationship with an editor. you know, and it was fantastic because he took the story to places that I couldn't have, and our interaction was positive. We were learning from each other.
Well, that's a great experience. Being in his class has been a very wonderful experience. I hope he'll come on, in fact, on the show. You know, this show is the neutral zone. Well, what does that mean? Nothing's neutral here, but we try to set a zone to talk about things. And I'm bringing on things that are passionate to me and parts of my world, and then I'm going to show how it all fits together, because we're all here. Are you born here and raised on Maui? Yeah?
No, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. My family moved to Maui in 1969 when I was 5.
Well, there you go. So you're a Maui guy.
I am. I started kindergarten at Wailuku Elementary. I was the only white kid in my class, so
I get you.
That's a good starting point, you know, for anybody moving to Hawaii. It's like, hey.
Well, all I know is that I am seeing at the college, and I've been going a couple of years. I discovered about senior financial aid. It's
Great.
Financial aid, but
awesome.
It's like
fill me in on that. I'm 50, 60, I'm almost
70,
there.
All these people, so they all could become and do things with their lives and learn technical skills. So I thought, I'm old, I can't see, but why would I want to learn Photoshop and this and editing?
Yeah.
Well, because first of all, you get to be with young people, and that by itself is a great stimulation, and they can learn from you and all your experience. So I thought that was good.
Yeah.
But then I realized if I'm going to be doing anything, I'm really more administrative. I want to know what I'm doing to be able to hand off a job and know the kind of things and work with them in the way you are. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you could go to Maui University, Maui here, and have someone at the caliber of Adiolad and being a program directed by Brian. Brian brought on yet another great, I guess we call them professors, right? Or how do we identify?
Oh, yeah, instructors.
There's someone that Joel Agnew has a partner on his show, Barry Wurst. Barry Wurst teaches world cinema, which I imagine you can describe, but I'm in that class. And so when I'm sitting now with a director who... We saw a movie called The Killer, with John Woo. John Woo then came and did things in the States, Hard Target, Mission Impossible 2, Broken Arrow, etc. So when Barry is pushing us to compare, and I'm thinking, John wrote and directed The Killer. Now he's doing Mission Impossible 2. That's a different kind of a relationship. Interesting comparison. Okay. Now that you're going through here and talking about, you're moving toward writing and directing as a direction. What do you see out there for people that are learning it, to learn it all and jump in where you can?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it starts. You know, what are you interested in? And regardless of your age, certainly, or your circumstances, we all, you know, can pursue storytelling in all different forms. And now there's different ways to market these skills that there never necessarily were before. When I was in film and television and radio school, you know, you came out and you go get a job at the affiliate, hope you can get on the news crew, or, you know, like me, do some independent corporate video and try to get your act together on that level, or, you know, try to work your way into radio, which, you know, at the time there was certainly a lot of, you know, on-air personality positions for that, but radio was really about getting into sales and the administrative side, because that's where the money was. You know, probably is still today. Today corporate radio is a whole nother beast.
I'm sure with the internet, everything's changed in so many ways.
It has, but it's created opportunity, and it's created opportunity for our voices. And yeah, we have to adjust our expectation. I mean, we all do. The Hollywood screenwriters that worked in this industry for 20, 30 years, and just really, you know, in the heyday of well-paying script work, are having to accept staff writing positions they never had before. Some used to routinely, you know, get $1 million and a half per script just for, you know, blasting something out, and now there's no certainty of that. And what is the money to be? Who knows? Writers, 30-year writers, are having to learn how to be producers and package and cast and move through the the Hollywood system in a whole different way. So the message is very clear. We need to have a wealth of skills. There is no one entry point. There is no what's right for me is right for you. It's right. It just comes down to what's right for you today, now, because it's probably going to change tomorrow.
Well, using that as the platform,
Yeah.
your school and what you're doing there is the foundation for people to get educated and be in an industry and be creating that industry by having local skills. And that is such a wonderful thing. When I saw that you were coming in that program, I actually shifted my life schedule to be able to take your Monday, Wednesday, Barry, and taking a film class where you get to experience and understand things as they were coming on the scene. I want to say the Hollywood, but the world film scene is an extraordinary journey. And Barry does a great job of...
Barry's brilliant.
He's really terrific. So if anyone interested in this stuff, University of Hawaii Maui College Creative Media Department is quite the place to look at. You got stuff even this week coming up. Why don't you tell us about that?
We do. You know, it is an active thing we got going on this week. In the Wednesday night class, in Barry Wurst's World Cinema class, we're going to be hosting 2 filmmakers from the Big Island that are bringing their latest feature over. It's a great film. It's going to screen here publicly on Thursday night at the Regency at 7:30, a film entitled Stoke. And Stoke is going to be screening in Barry Wurst's World Cinema class. World Cinema is a film analysis and criticism class, really heavy on critical thinking, but also in history of cinema and understanding place. You know, as Hawaii people, we are world, you know, if you're making a movie in Hawaii, you're involved in world cinema. You're certainly not part of Hollywood, unless that's what you are pretzeling yourself to do. But if you're creating natively here, you really fall into the category of world cinema. So that course is structured to illuminate what's going on all over the world historically, where the masters have come from, not from Hollywood, is I think, you know, one of the recurring motifs is, the Hollywood system doesn't necessarily create the masters in this day and age. They come from elsewhere. And it also illuminates the Maori film industry in New Zealand, which didn't exist 25 years ago. Also, the Hawaii film industry really doesn't exist yet, but we're working on one.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that 20 years from now we'll get to reflect back on, wow, we didn't have an industry and now we do, and look at where its humble beginnings were. So it's films like Get a Job or How Mana or Go for Broke. There's some really amazing documentaries being put out by Hawaii people every year. And so the filmmakers that are coming in this week at the college and to screen here on Maui, their new feature Stoke, I'm really excited to see it. It takes place on the Big Island. It's a road picture. And then Friday night, they're going to be having a salon here at Akaku, and they're going to be showing a documentary, Aloha from Lava Land, which is something these talented filmmakers put together when the volcanoes were going off on the Big Island. So these are regional filmmakers right now, but developing skills to tell story, beyond our shores as they acquire those skills and experience.
Well, thank you for bringing all this to all of us here on Maui.
Well, it's certainly not me. I just have to stop you there. It's not me. It's there's an us going on.
Oh, good.
When I moved home 14 years ago, I think I did come home and observe that, oh, God, there's just really, we're still not doing it. And I wasn't here, so I can... I was guilty of that as well. I came back saying, God, why is there nothing happening here? I want to move home, but nobody's making movies, nobody's telling story, nobody's building industry, and one person can't do it, so that's real. But I took responsibility for coming home and at least being one of the few at the time that were saying, hey, we can do this, and so let's do this. And so now, all these years later, there's greater movements statewide. The fact that there's even a creative media program in the Maui College is really a cool step forward, and we're growing forward. It's going to be better this year. By next year, our 2-year program is going to be mature and really happening. You
just sent out an email with just extraordinary
some new classes. Yeah, there's 4 or 5 new classes.
And you put it together. I'm talking really to our audience who knows nothing. And you guys, old and young, Maui College has a great program here. And the reason I shifted to look at this is just because of people exactly like Brian. Because the programs they're putting together, you're going to find incredibly inspiring. We're sitting here, you mentioned Akaku. We are KAKU, which is, I guess you'd say, affiliated, but we are not part of Akaku, so we're a real, have to make money kind of radio station, but we're independent. But Akaku Television and the future of television, I'm hoping we can, through all this, another growth step is going to be a channel or 2 or 3, and that's another step.
Well, at the college, I believe, just like Akaku, they do have a channel in the cable.
It sits ready, but I don't know how active it's really been.
There's programming of different kinds. I'm not sure that is the agenda of our program at this time, but if we get to the point where students are generating content, a broadcast channel, we already have access to such a thing. I know Akaku is, wonderful about airing the works of local producers, so our students probably could find their way to the airwaves that way.
I'm hoping we can get all the editing. Like here they have iMovie and Final Cut Pro, and you guys are using Adobe Premiere, I'm sure. So I'm sure through all this and the editing, and once you learn the concept, that's what I learned with Audi. Once you got the concept and story thing down, the moving of the buttons, that's different between programs. But the real skill is what you're talking about, is what do you put for the viewer to see and hear? Yeah. What are you putting it together?
And so our program is hopefully going to allow folks to acquire the skills, the tool skills.
Right.
There's a lot of students here on Island that are learning these skills in high school and in middle school.
Oh.
Very active production environment here for the youth. And so I know that we're going to have students coming in that already have a wealth of experience with editing, with shooting, and with art programs, and that's a part of it. Learning the tools, and Adobe Creative Suite's a real robust tool set, and that's why we're centering around that with Premiere, which is a professional tool.
And also, I'm recognizing that, for example, at Akaku, they buy a program and they have it on their computers. Where here, students are coming through, they each take responsibility for their own software package, and they get a great deal.
It's incredible. $19 a month for a student. You can have everything in the Adobe Creative Suite.
Everything.
Yeah, a professional rate on that's about $60. So that is a really amazing.
That's a good incentive to come to school and learn.
Save money. Yeah, right. Exactly. A professional could probably enroll into school, have access to all those tools, and save money by just taking one class a year.
Well, and if you're unprofessional, what a great, I have learned already that Maui College is, we don't want to be thinking that what we have here isn't quality education. We've got some terrific people there.
Oh, truly. And
incredible.
And joining the faculty last fall, it's been quite an adjustment in so many ways, but everywhere I turn, there's just people that are really passionate and giving and building programs. Ours doesn't necessarily exist, but it's on. It's growing, and the support that I've received from my colleagues and from leadership, they're really behind the growth of our program, which is just a reflection that they're behind the growth of all programs. There are now 4-year degrees at the college.
It's extraordinary.
Ours is a 2-year AS, Associate of Science degree, but we're also introducing a certificate of achievement, so a student could come back.
Well, we're going to take a break for our sponsors. Hit the mark, as we say.
Yeah.
But we'll come back and we'll get into this again. We're with Brian Kohne, the program coordinator at Creative Media, etc., at University of Hawaii Maui College. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jason Schwartz, host of The Neutral Zone. KAKU is a listener-supported station. This means that all of the great programs you hear, like mine, are sponsored by you as well as our underwriters. If you would like to help keep the voice of Maui talking loud and clear, go to kakufm.org/donate today and give. And don't miss The Neutral Zone Mondays at 11 a.m. on 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui.
Want to host your own radio talk show? You can. Once every month, KAKU 88.5 FM offers an introduction to radio class at Akaku Plaza at 333 Dairy Road in Kahului. This introduction to radio will get your feet wet and show you what you need to do to get started. Interested? Call us at 871-5554 for more information and registration.
Enough with the lawyers. If you want something done, bring in the pointy heads.
You know, looking at the problems our country is facing, whether it's the future of work or climate change, who better to tackle those problems than scientists and engineers?
A record number of scientists are running for Congress on the next Big Picture Science. Skeptic check, political scientist.
They say that car crashes happen in slow motion. The reality is that crashes happen fast. There's no time to think and no time to check if your child is in the right car seat. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your kids in the right seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Get more info at safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Neutral Zone, with me, Jason Schwartz, would like to thank Maui Arts and Music Association, Treemakers Foundation of Maui, for their support. Since 1991, hundreds of television shows and their MauiArtsandMusic.com website, they have championed self-sustainability on Maui. The Neutral Zone is heard live Mondays at 11 a.m. and replayed Saturday at 7 a.m. on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui. Okay, I'm back here with Brian Kohne, and this is Jason Schwartz. This is the Neutral Zone. We're anything but neutral. We were just talking before the break about the different programs that you had. You said there's a 4-year degree, but you guys have a 2-year, right?
Yeah, at the University of Hawaii Maui College Creative Media Program, we offer a 2-year Associate of Science degree, and we'll soon be introducing a Certificate of Achievement as well in creative media, so that a student, one coming back who already has a degree, can come back and attain this Certificate of Achievement in as few as 6 or 7 classes. Somebody fresh off the street could get the Certificate of Achievement with, I think, in about 9 classes. So within a year, somebody could acquire a series of the basic skills, the foundation of the 2-year program. But we're also looking at expanding to a 4-year Bachelor of Arts program. It'll take a little time, and we gotta solidify what we're working on now. But I can see as though the day will come where a student on the island of Maui will be able to economically attain a Bachelor of Arts in creative media and filmmaking or communications design without ever leaving the island. And I think that's very exciting, because right now it's daunting to when somebody has to think about even moving over to Oahu to pursue a 4-year degree. They got to think about work. They got to think about tuition. So if we can, I think, responsibly here on island, create as many 4-year programs as possible, then, the future is bright.
And the other piece of the business that you're talking about, the business side, do you teach that kind of stuff?
We do, but not explicitly. The program right now really has to focus on the basic foundational skills. And an extension of that, we'll go deeper into storytelling and the marketing side. So the business side factors in, but we don't get real serious. The program doesn't get real serious. It doesn't assume that everybody is headed in that direction. A person could go on to take additional classes at the college in starting a small business or, entrepreneurship and things that could augment whatever they're learning from us.
But not really a specific skill set.
I don't see what we're doing as exclusively vocational. I think the school itself, certainly when it was Maui Community College, was always sort of seen as a vocational school, where you go to learn nursing or auto mechanics or construction and things of that nature. So that is a part of what we're doing. But the outcomes, we could be preparing students to go on to a 4-year degree. We could be preparing them to open their own business. We could be preparing them for any number of things. There's a statistic, it's a national statistic that I look at about college graduates. And that is, and it's quite illuminating, is it 80% of college graduates in the United States do not end up working in their field of study. And so on one hand, that maybe diminishes the value of a college degree. I don't see it that way at all, and I definitely don't see it in respect to the skills and experiences we're providing. I believe that 80% of the people coming out of our program are going to use these skills in whatever business they choose to become a part of. So it's not just about...
especially in our day and age, where all these skills, which are...
they're part of your life.
They're part of our lives like they've never been before.
Absolutely.
So,
and they overlap. So being able to deal with video and graphic design and audio...
use that on your blog, or you're putting together...
all sorts of different ways. And it strengthens you in the workplace when you have additional skills in these ways. And marketing. I mean, when we talk about creative media... people say, what is creative media? Well, creative media to me is commercial art, straight up. It's the convergence of art and technology. That's hence creative media, but it's commercial art. 95% of the applications for these programs, for these skills, are to sell things. And if people say, oh no, but I'm a movie maker. Okay, well, you're a movie maker. You're selling something, and so marketing's a part of making a feature film. When I set out to write a feature film, one of the first things I have to confront early on is, who is my audience? Who is my market? Right. How is this thing going to sell? Who's going to see it? And if the conclusions are nobody's going to see it, there is no market, and I choose to do it anyway, okay, then maybe I'm just, maybe I'm just an artist. But I would argue I'm still a commercial artist who happens to be looking at this craft as more of a hobby than as a profession. So there's all these distinctions.
Right.
So our program really seeks to acknowledge those truths. And if you come in and you do 2 years with us and you pursue our program, you are going to have capability in all of these areas, and you may choose to go on to school. You may choose to open a business or to seek clients because you're going to have this marketable skills. And you may just choose to move into some other industry or go on to get a business degree or any other things. But whatever experience people have in our program, it's going to be a positive one for their lives,
Well, I also like to make a plug to older Americans. That means you could be 30, but out of the where you normally were in school. This program, and from what I see at Maui at the college there, is a really valuable resource that works with our community so well. And we, like I say, we're sort of sister stations. There are a couple of channels getting funded through the same sources and such, and we're all supporting making Maui better. You've done a really good job, and still you have things coming up this fall, and I guess you have new courses. Why don't you tell us about some of that?
We're growing the program forward. So you're taking a world cinema class right now, which is the first time we've offered that. So that'll be offered again in the fall. We debut. Barry Wurst is also going to be teaching a course, Mass Media and Culture, this fall, which is going to go back and illuminate the history of media and emerging technologies. So it starts, I guess, with the printing press and brings us all the way forward. I think that's an important course for a younger generation who grew up in the internet age. The internet's been here, and they don't necessarily have an understanding of, an important understanding of, the evolution of all of these forms. And if you're talking about video and audio, you're talking about understanding how storytelling moved from radio to or from the screen to radio to television to what we know as the internet is just a delivery mechanism. It's not an art form.
No,
it's a delivery mechanism for all of these art forms we've practiced for hundreds of years now.
Well, what I think is amazing also is that all of us have so many choices. Marketing, like you say, who is your audience comes into everything you do.
Everything.
So to know what it was like before they had these tools, to be able to use your brain independent of all these tools being sort of shortcuts to where a story is made, the development of ideas. That's really such a valuable thing for old people, but young people for sure.
Absolutely.
How do people get in touch about this kind of program? Is it easy?
Well, the college, it's real easy to get information. I mean, right now, there's not a lot of information because the work and the things I can continue to describe for you aren't in place yet.
Okay.
In place are some of the new courses that are going this fall. We're going to do the editing class again, the mass media course that I have a class I'll be teaching on Fridays from 9 to noon. Motion pictures from concept to completion. So in one semester, you're going to get a real good understanding of screenwriting, production, post-production, and marketing, and how all of these processes are interconnected. And it's not just about making a feature film. I think that's one of the easiest ways to teach subjects like this, because we're familiar with feature films. There's value there. Mm-hmm. But the same processes, the same principles apply to short-form storytelling of any kind, including advertising. You know, you have, regardless of how much time or where the content's going, and if it's something to be seen or heard or both, you know, the considerations are all the same. The level of preparation, the writing, the post-production, and the marketing. In the old days, we made movies 3 times. We wrote them, we shot them, and we edited them. And that was it. And then you handed it off and somebody marketed it for you. That's not how it works. Now there's the 4th time you make a movie is marketing, and marketing actually starts first. So all these processes are interwoven. So it's really important, regardless of what type of storytelling you may find your way in, to understand the comprehensive part of this process. And that class that I just mentioned, Motion Pictures Concept to Completion, also offers a preview of what the program will do for you in the coming years on the filmmaking side. Our degree is going to have 2 specializations. One is communication design, which is graphic design and the web, and the other is filmmaking. However, they both share a lot, so the filmmakers are definitely going to get a massive dose of communications design, foundational education, and so too will the communication design people have capability in video editing and production.
Well, I must tell you, I've now been going to school there a couple of years part-time, and it's just getting better and better. You're such a welcome addition to the campus. Thank you for all.
Well, I'm enjoying it for sure, and that's I think at the end of the day, that's why we're here, right? Have a good time. I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. So, teaching's fun for me. It's just another passion, just like making movies.
Well, that's a good thing. You have anything in the works, or are you still in?
Well, I have Kuleana, which is being marketed outside the state of Hawaii under the title Maui. It's an alternate title. We didn't change the title. It's just an alternate title to appeal to a broader market. So that will be opening in theaters soon on the mainland, and it'll be going to video on demand, pay-per-view, and all of these places this year. Probably go to Blu-ray and DVD as well. So people who have been asking, hey, how can I see Kuleana? How can I see it? You know, well, it's coming, and it'll probably be released in Hawaii on DVD as Kuleana/Maui. You know, because it's both. It's the same movie. It's just alternate title.
Although you kind of, I don't know if you discounted Get a Job. I thought Get a Job was great.
Yeah, Get a Job's great.
Can you find that?
It's really funny. You know, I think it's on Amazon Prime at the moment. We'll probably, when we release Kuleana, we'll probably re-release Get a Job in some places. There's some online platform called Tubi that is evidently gonna put it on. I pulled it out of all of the usual places because I wanted to take a deep breath and get Kuleana where it needed to go, with the idea that I'm going to learn a lot, and that Kuleana, the existence of Kuleana, will help people discover Get a Job, you know, ultimately.
Well, I tell you, when I first saw it, I had met you one time. We sat and talked a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then I saw it, and the first time I saw it as well, I could see a few spots I thought, oh, editing rough, and I saw it again, and changes happened. Then I saw it again, and changes. So, Adi, the Audiolod, the editor, he said, well, the final thing is not done until you have to submit it. But even after you submit it, you can still make changes. Yeah, I just really appreciate what I've learned so much in just this little experience with the people that you've had on your your education team.
Yeah, we have more. We have a number of new instructors that will be coming in, all working professionals. So as the program moves forward, we're going to continue to introduce new stuff. Next spring will be Barry is going to have a class we're going to run in horror, the cinema of fear. So similar to what you're experiencing with world cinema as this window into the world and into the craft, the horror film class that he'll be teaching is more of a sociology class than anything else. And I've got a class that'll probably not go for another year and a half yet, but it'll be in comedy and TV and film, which is a particular interest to me.
Well, it's interesting because as an older guy, horror has come on the scene. It used to be in a movie they have a splat of blood, the Wild Bunch. It was like, oh my God! And now we're so far past that, and horror is gone. It's a genre.
It's a really sophisticated world of cinema, and there's no one way to do it. And interestingly enough, there's only two genres at this moment that are viable, commercially viable, independently, and that is horror and faith. If you make a good horror movie or a good faith movie, well, wait, to say a good faith movie, that's a kind of a misnomer, because a faith movie doesn't have to be good. It just has to prescribe to a few, basic tenets, which is the characters need to discover Christ, and it changes their lives for the better. With a faith movie, if you can tell a credible story in which you depict that transformation. Right. I was this, and then I discovered Christ, and I'm that. That is a marketable product. And I'm talking on the business side. I'm not talking on the creative side of anything. On the business side, faith is a huge business right now for independents. You don't need stars. It doesn't even have to be a great movie. It just has to follow these. Just has to follow this formula. Now, in the case of horror, you don't need stars. You don't need money. It just has to be scary on some level. It has to have, your movie has to have something that's unique, that either something the audience has seen plenty of and can't get enough of, or something the audience hasn't experienced yet. For example, Get Out was a breakthrough horror movie 2 years ago that kind of brought today's audience into a type of horror that we don't see too often. And a lot of people say, wow, nobody's ever done that before. It's like, no, it's been done. There's other movies that have used similar devices. It's just it was done so well in such a contemporary way. This filmmaker, Jordan Peele, just is he's a lifelong horror fanatic, so he understands the tenets of it. And horror is not slasher films, monster movies. It's none of those things, but it's all of those things. Horror is storytelling based on what we fear. It's designed to get under our skin on other levels. Godzilla was a horror movie it was an environmental horror movie that sought to speak to the horrors of, the nuclear age. And so horror is really an amazing vehicle to speak on so many subjects, I don't like the torture porn of recent years. I find it, unsettling, but there's an audience for it. So the business, will continue to crank those things out. And I like everybody tired of the slasher films and films of that nature. But I think horror is a kind of genre where there's always going to be new variations, and it all is just about, what makes us feel uncomfortable, I think, and what holds up a truth to us. Because that truth, whatever it is that's making us uncomfortable, oftentimes there's a lot for us to learn there about ourselves and about the world. And so Barry's horror class, I believe, will be more so a sociology class than a film class.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that everyone out there is saying, well, I would love to come to school now. Well, you can.
Please
We'd
do.
love to have you.
Please do. I believe enrollment's open now at the college. Starting this fall, the creative media program, the creative media majors, is all going to take off. We've got a lot of plans, more classes that are rolling out just in the next year. And then the following year, we'll have intermediate versions of the editing class you're currently taking. In fact, that one might go next spring. It's just going to keep going. We're going to have motion graphics and animation classes. And this is just the foundation. If we can improve our enrollment and start to, really get some wind under our wings, I think, 2-3 years from now, we're going to be able to boast one of the best creative media programs in the state.
You've been doing production here out in the field. Do we have enough talent and crew to be able to support production here locally?
Absolutely. There's a lot of talent here in the community, and I know some friends of mine are getting a movie going here in the coming months, and there's no shortage of people who are capable, and there's a lot of union crew here. A lot of the folks in the union on Maui end up having to work on Oahu a lot to jump on the bigger productions. There's a lot of commercial production that goes on here, national commercials. So that's kind of the bread and butter of our Maui, people in the crew side of things.
And yet that education piece, when I go to the college and I look for marketing, I don't yet see maybe what you said.
Well, it's going to be hard, and I don't know in a 2-year program that we're going to be able to get to a point where we're preparing people to directly to hang lights and do things of this nature.
I think I'm making an appeal to the school to develop their marketing area to more delve into this industry. That's what I'm really looking.
It's tough. Again, the college, all the colleges in the state and DOE look at things. Where are the jobs? That's a big question. Because how do you justify the outlay from the state if it's not going to result in jobs? And so right now it's hard to make the argument that let's have a school that's on this island that's training people to work on crew up for TV and film, because those jobs aren't on this island.
Well, that's another step in our growth, because that's an area that I am hoping to be able to help. And maybe obviously you talking about comedy, I have a friend I haven't seen in 30 years who's a zillionaire and dominates television right now as a producer. So when we have a program, what do they say? If you build it, they will come. So those days are coming.
Well, I think that's just it. I think people here in Hawaii need to, continue to do it for themselves and use the internet and the doors that are opening there. Now, the idea that, hey, I'm going to be a television producer and make a zillion, okay, that may not be real. If it is real, you gotta move to where it's happening and where you're going to grow up through the system and acquire the skills to, be that zillionaire. But if it's your passion and your love, there's ways to sustain yourself and provide and have businesses that serve other businesses. And there's a lot of different ways to do it.
Remember you talking about your corporate people here for all kinds of businesses. In this new media age that we're in, the amount of work that can happen
it's enormous.
Is enormous, and
almost every business needs a video right now, whether they know it or they don't.
Whether they know it or not.
And what happens here is a lot of times people don't realize what they need until their competitor is doing it, and so we're seeing that more and more. And then hey, at some point it's not enough to have a video. You have to have a good one, and you have to have more than one, and you have to have a system where you're putting this kind of content out there, because social media is a hungry beast. And if a business here gains a real grasp on how to use it to their advantage, they're going to have an incredible advantage over their competition.
No question.
And so when those competitions start to emerge, the vacuum for people with these skills to be able to deliver this content,
which is why your program is right on.
I think so. I think we're ahead of the curve. I think these jobs are going to exist. They already do, but they're going to exist in a more obvious way in a short period of time.
Yeah, well, I guess we say it takes visionaries like yourself and people that you became a visionary by, like you say, you came back home with a bundle of skills. But you live here, and you live here, and you love this place and people, which is really, thank you for doing that. So many people that live here that move away, and bless them. But, we need to have good people. We talk about keeping our kids here, but also our kids that are wherever to support, even from a distance. But what you're doing is really appreciated.
Well, thank you. I think our kids that go and stay away can't be faulted.
No.
It is our Kuleana to create a climate. It's their Kuleana to step up to it or come be part of it if they choose. But
because you've used the word Kuleana for everyone,
yeah,
we don't know where they're going to listen from. What does Kuleana mean?
Well, in this, it means it can be used in a number of ways. The way I'm currently using it is our responsibility. It's and beyond just our, we're tasked with this. It's if it's important to us, it's important for us to take action to create these opportunities. It's our Kuleana. It's our responsibility if we want these industries to exist and we want our students to be able, or our kids to be able to come home. We have to create a climate in which there's something here for them.
Right.
If somebody wants to do something that they can't do here, they're not coming home. And in my case, I stayed away for 22 years, and it pained me. Every time I come home, I'd just go, oh God, I really want to move home. I love Maui. I love the people here. I want to be part of this community. I want to be part of this culture, but I can't. It was to be career suicide. So by the time I finally did, in 14 years ago, it was with the idea that, okay, I'm going to be a part of building this thing, whatever that takes. I'm gonna be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And was it career suicide? Absolutely. It just set me back 1,000 years. But it's also been a rebirth. It's been a career rebirth. 14 years ago when I came home, I wasn't a music producer. I was not a writer, director, producer, editor. I was not an educator at a university. So yeah, the death of whatever my career might have been prior to moving home gave way to the birth of the things that I've been doing and the things I'll continue to do. So in my case, that leap of faith has been difficult, but benefits, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I mean, come on, we're on Maui. This is just,
isn't that the truth?
It's just
boy?
So cool, and people
At our
are
very
mellow,
worst,
and people are healthy, and I just like being here.
Well, time is running away. I'm looking at the clock and put my glasses on. We have a little over a minute. Brian Kohne, you've been a really terrific guest. I hope you'll think to come back and join us again.
Yeah.
You have great staff. You're building a great thing at the school. We wish you the very best with your movies and what you're doing there. And
thank you.
We just have a great bunch of people on Maui, and it's great to have people like you, Brian, here with us.
Well, thank you. And Kaku has been a big foundational part of this community as well. So thank you to everybody here for doing their part.
Well, to our audience out there, next week we actually have Barry Wurst is coming on the show. So you'll be learning about films. So we're featuring this because it's a really good program, and I'm really happy to bring good things to our community and you guys. And go to MauiNeutralZone.com. You can see this again, and you can see other shows. Please join us next week. Brian, thank you. Everyone out there, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. The Neutral Zone, with me, Jason Schwartz, would like to thank Maui Arts and Music Association, Treemakers Foundation of Maui, for their